When I made some calls in preparation for the introduction of Matt Difanis, I came to the conclusion he needs to write a book sharing his secret as a true master of time management. Just ask his real estate clients, they'll tell you he's never too busy to quickly, and that's a word that resonated from 3 different people I talked to. They all said the same thing. He quickly responds to any question, any concern. In fact, one client had noted that he has the time to talk and share his knowledge. One of his professional peers said, Matt leads a team that does a volume in excess of $25 million, but he gives his clients so much peace of mind by treating each and every client, large or small, as if that person was his only client in his business. Matt, in his Central Illinois Business Magazine profile, quickly credited the people who surround him as a major ingredient in his success. Matt's successes in his industry are well documented. Past president, Champaign County Association of REALTORS, 2013 Realtor of the Year. He was just named the 2016 treasurer for the Illinois Association of REALTORS. In 2018, Matt will ascend to become the youngest president in the history of the Illinois Association of REALTORS. Matt's passion for volunteering finds him helping at Windsor Road Christian Church, the Mahomet-Seymour School District, Mahomet Area Youth Club. His volunteer work for 3 years as part of the Central Illinois Honor Flight Team gave him the opportunity to photograph more than 30,000 images. East Central Illinois is fortunate to have a community contributor who emphatically says, I'm just a regular guy that likes to help others. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2015 Central Illinois Business Magazine 40 Under 40 Man of the Year, Matt Difanis, and presenting Matt's award will be Scott Miller, the 2014 Central Illinois Business Magazine Man of the Year. So 2015 come up, 2014, all right.
Stuff down here. Thank you so much. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. So, lest you get too worried about the length, these are the notes. I'm Matt Difanis. I stand here a very blessed man. I am so honored to be here, and I'm honored to be surrounded by such an extraordinary peer group, and I'm also slightly surprised because I was just barely under the 40-year wire to qualify for this, which is a cautionary tale for the younger 40s under 40. You'll look this decrepit too before you even hit 40. So several people, had read the initial profile, the mini profile in the News-Gazette, and said, didn't realize you were still under 40. And I have sort of a metallic Tin Man look in that photograph. I don't know if that ages me more or not. So let me start out briefly with what I meant to say about my wife with respect to what was printed on the fine pages of the News-Gazette. So let me first refresh your memories or explain for those of you who didn't read this. So in the mini profile that the News-Gazette does in preparation for this feature, one of the questions is, best decision I ever made. The answer that was printed, which I'm guessing was printed because I probably said it, getting married at age 20, by far the best decision. Not only had we been a good, feisty, fascinating match, but my whole career has been self-employment. I couldn't have had a career of self-employment if I hadn't been married to someone with a real job. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by recognizing my wife, Angel Difanis. who was not altogether happy when she went to work the first day after this hit the paper, and was quickly nicknamed Sugar Mama. What I meant to say was not that I married my wife because she had a job, but rather, had I not been lucky enough to have fallen in love with my soulmate at such a tender young age, I would never have been able at that young an age to go into a whole career that is self-employment. And quite honestly, the quick recurring theme of my remarks is an awful lot of what I have accomplished was done as the result of very hard work, but a completely accidental, non-existent roadmap and pathway. And I want to make that point because I don't want any of you to miss some of the amazing opportunities that confront you along life's path that you can't possibly plan for and you can't possibly put in a goal-setting session. So thanks to that odd twist of fate, that my wife would have met me when I was such a tender young age and been so helpless to resist, that I was able to start down a path that has been very liberating because self-employment is a big part of why I can make the time to do the stuff that I do. So in addition to my lovely wife, Angel, I want to recognize some relatives. My mother, Jeannie, is actually in Mississippi today because of a family funeral, so she could not be here. My father and stepmom, so my father is Tom Difanis and stepmom Carol Higgison, they are both here today, and I'm glad to have you. Also, my stepfather, Dave, is a big part of why I'm able to do what I do because my wife's a convenient care nurse practitioner, so she works crazy hours. That clinic's open till 8 p.m., 365 days a year, and I work absolutely insane hours and do a lot of traveling. Were it not for Dave filling in and helping shuttle our kids back and forth, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And the other big person here is my mother-in-law, Remy, who actually, she's a native of the Philippines, as is my wife. She has lived through some pretty extraordinary things from a very, very modest background in a third world country. And she's lived with us for the last, 14 or so years. And without her, Angel and I could not do what we do. So the folks I want to thank are not just people that I want to thank because they're folks that have made life easier. They're people without whom I absolutely couldn't do what I do. So the next list of folks that I want to recognize are the members of my team. I want as a goal to be as accessible to my clients as I need to be all the time, but I can't run a three-ring circus without having a fantastic staff and licensed assistants to help. So my team is seated over here, and I absolutely couldn't do this without them. So Jamie, Tracy, Stacy, Jeffrey, and then I have office staffers, Julie and Robin, who provide a lot of stuff. And then Caitlin, who's standing behind the camera, who's my multimedia tech goddess. So I can't do what I do without them. And they're all good community servants in their own right. And Caitlin gets dragged into all sorts of nonprofit volunteerism. Mercifully, she does it voluntarily, but it is sometimes very close to being voluntold. I have two great and hilarious kids that I did not bring because there was no reason to expose them to anything inappropriate that I might say here. But Gabe, who's 10, Isabel, who's 7, just a couple of quick insights into the way that I have warped them to be exactly how I want them. The legendary actor, comedian Chris Farley was deceased years before my children were even born. And the other night at the dinner table, while we're waiting on a rare moment when we can all be there to eat together, waiting for the last person to get to the table so we can start eating, one of them quotes Chris Farley from the Mean Teenage Girls high school scene, "Lay off me, I'm starving." That was my 7-year-old daughter. My 10-year-old son, who's the serious one, a few months ago, my wife got home from work after 8 o'clock. It's kids' bedtime. She's looking at them because all of a sudden they act like, turns out there's homework we haven't done yet. So she's a little irritated, looks at me for being a failure of a parent, looks then at them and says, "What were you two doing right after school?" And before they could answer, I said, "You two," 7 and 10 years old, "you two weren't doing drugs again, were you?" And my son Gabe, 10 years old, does not miss a beat and says, "No, Dad, Izzy and I have not done drugs in weeks." So that gives you just a little hint. So I want to very briefly highlight some of, and the other folks I want to recognize here is, so people who know me well know that I make sports analogies exactly never, but I have been told that people who play golf play better golf with better golfers. Ladies and gentlemen, my better golfers are my business partners. Tom Roth, Nick Taylor, Russ Taylor, those are the better golfers. And I have, despite my stunted emotional development and Beavis and Butt-Head-esque sense of humor, I have matured tremendously because of the time I have gotten to spend with these guys, who are also tremendous community servants in their own right, and also our managing broker, Bill Craig, who is out of town today. So the two most significant volunteer adventures that I have had in recent years, which both came about entirely by accident, were Central Illinois Honor Flight involvement and the Mahomet Area Youth Club. I was totally surprised to see a bunch of my Central Illinois Honor Flight volunteers here at Table 7, many of whom I haven't seen in many months or in a couple of years, who all came up from out of area to be here, and one of our Central Illinois Honor Flight World War II veteran Honor Flight alums, Bob Flauger, who came from Decatur to be here today. That adventure, which ended up being an adventure that went through 12 flights with more than 700 veterans, taking over 30,000 photographs as their volunteer photographer to photograph and memorialize the trip of a lifetime for these World War II veterans, whose efforts collectively quite literally changed the course of world history. And I have said to many groups many times since my involvement with that organization, I will forever be a better person because of the time that I got to spend with Bob and his peers from World War II. Thank you for that opportunity and for the chance to be able to see and appreciate up close a little bit of what the members of the Greatest Generation have done for our country and for the rest of the world. I got involved with that because a family friend got signed up by a relative to go on an honor flight, and I had seen a Sunday morning news segment, knew just enough about it to realize this is going to be pretty cool. This is a veteran that had never married, had no kids. My mother and her older sister had worked as his secretary in Decatur back in the 60s and 70s. And so what started as this gentleman's going on an honor flight, I contacted my mom and my aunt to see if they would be up for going with me to DC to surprise him when he got there, and we would travel around and kind of tail him for the day, and we did. And I was so moved that I immediately came back and signed up as a volunteer, not realizing I would end up being drafted as their photographer, and so it went. And so that experience has had me talking to people who watched the flag get raised with their own eyes on Iwo Jima. Somebody who helped load the bomb bay of the Enola Gay that dropped the first atomic bomb in World War II. A guy who was helping a general push a car stuck out of the snow that found himself side by side with Dwight Eisenhower in a snowstorm. People who have, Pearl Harbor survivor. People who have watched some of the most significant events in world history firsthand through their own eyes. Really an amazing opportunity. So that has forever changed me, and it has also made a huge impact on the veterans. Don Neihart, who is the chapter president of Central Illinois Honor Flight, was on about 24 flights. I was on the last 12 of them, but he was on a dozen or so before that, and is a full-time real estate appraiser. So the amount of sacrifice made to pull that off is pretty remarkable. But these veterans, the impact that it's made on them, we've had numerous veterans for whom I've had to scramble to get photos together that their families wanted at memorial services, multiple ones that have asked to be buried in their Central Illinois Honor Flight polo shirt. Veterans who never had talked about their experiences in the war, that because of the miracle of Honor Flight came back, and stories that they would have otherwise taken to their grave have been passed down, have been videotaped, or at least told to family members, so those stories live on, so people won't forget what those members of the Greatest Generation did. So that's been a life changer, totally by accident. The other big effort that was also a complete accident was I was walking through my kids' school a few years ago, and legendary school principal Mark Kabuti in Sangamon School in Mahomet intercepted me in the hallway to see if I would be willing to join the board of directors of the Mahomet Area Youth Club. I am now in my second year as board president of that organization, And that was something I knew nothing about. Many people think of Mahomet as being the affluent suburb of Champaign-Urbana with the destination school district that all of the upper-class kids are attending. And the reality is, Mahomet is also home to one of the largest mobile home communities in the state of Illinois. Mahomet has almost 1 out of every 4 of its students who qualify for free or reduced lunch and have a demonstrated financial need. On any given day in Mahomet, there's some child waking up somewhere in a single-parent household in a mobile home where that parent could not pay a utility bill, who is getting ready for a school day without running water or without electricity. That need is very real. It exists in that community. I had lived in that community for a number of years and had no idea. There was a real need, and we had an organization that had offered after-school activities in a dumpy, rundown clubhouse that was never intended to be a permanent base of operations, with kids ages 6 to 18 all bouncing around in the same space, not able to keep things really under control very well. And we got to the point that a program made available for free to students who qualified. We only got 3 students the last year of that old operations model coming from the school 1 block away, because the Mahomet Area Youth Club had become so stigmatized as, if I can possibly avoid it, I don't want my kids going there. We launched a partnership with the school district so that our entire organizational model has been turned around. So a board that I joined by accident ended up in conversations with the school board and with administrators quite by accident. And when it was all said and done, we hatched a new business model whereby we partner with the school district, provide funding to the school district lets us use their facilities, and we have a huge array of after-school enrichment classes offered on campus. Families of means eagerly pay for their kids to attend those. We're talking things like Lego robotics. We're talking about animal classes, astronomy, history classes. Walked into one with a mock trial, Sangaman chefs, crafty kids, physical fitness related ones, taekwondo, a huge array of programs that kids eagerly scrambled to get into, that their parents are competitively signing up for, like Ticketmaster opening up a One Direction concert online. It's a real scramble. 25% of those seats are set aside for income qualified students so they can attend these classes at absolutely no charge, and it has turned into a model of inclusion, a program that was serving a couple dozen students a week at that dumpy clubhouse, served over 500 unique students in its first year under that new model, over 25% of whom were income eligible and 100% scholarship. And this all started in my world by accident because an opportunity came and tapped me on the shoulder in the form of Mark Kabuti in the hallway at the school. So we are continuing to make great strides, continuing to expand programming, making a real difference with after-school programming for junior high and its homework club, but also money that the Mahomet Area Youth Club provides to the district is also used by the district to ensure that at those higher grade levels where we don't need separate after-school classes because they've already got extracurriculars, no kid is denied the opportunity to participate in band or a sport or an extracurricular activity because of an inability to pay for the equipment fees or the activity fees. Nobody is turned away, and Macy helps to bridge that gap. The Mahomet Area Youth Club helps to bridge that gap. It makes a huge difference in the lives of people, and I am blessed to have been a part of that and to have a front row seat to that, but it all started by accident, and I've got a table of Mahomet Area Youth Club fellow board members sitting over here to support me today. The last group thanks guys. And I hesitate to mention this lest people assume that there's bias, but Marquis is the executive director of the Mahomet Area Youth Club. But I understand that he went to a secure undisclosed location during the deliberations when my name came up. Absolutely. Right, thank you. The last group that I want to acknowledge is I am blessed as a lifelong native of this community. I'm blessed to have spent, 30 some years attending and probably close to 30 or so, as a member of the Windsor Road Christian Church here in town. And I love the fact that I can't come into a venue like this without seeing several of the folks from my church family. And so Sue Gray, CEO of United Way, is here. Sarah Boltinghouse, wife of our senior pastor, also from United Way, is here. Her husband married us, so Randy did great work. Carol Wackerlin, as she and I have worked on volunteer photography projects at church together, and Nancy John Maria. And Nancy and Sarah both are parents of kids that I babysat as a member of that church many, many years ago. And I feel very old knowing that some of those babysitting clients' kids are now in their 30s. So all of what drives me to try to make a meaningful difference in this community is really an offshoot of that desire that really comes through, shining through Windsor Road Christian Church, where we really want to be a light for the community. We want to make a difference. We want to make an impact. We've just finished a series on I Heart CU, where that church, the whole church, is making an effort to be out in the community. So I wanted to not get through without acknowledging just tremendous blessings from my Heavenly Father and tremendous blessings that come from my church family as well. So with that, I encourage all of you, be open to opportunities that you won't see coming, because I guarantee I didn't see them coming. My career was largely an accident. I'm a graduate of the University of Illinois College of Law because I started this career and decided halfway through not to practice law. That commenced once I graduated law school, the I am going to kill you if you don't practice law phase of my marriage, through which I did live. I survived and remained married to my first wife, who was also my trophy wife. So be open. Be open to those opportunities that you don't see coming when they come knocking, because you absolutely can make a difference and change the world, and it is easier than you think.